Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. For everyone who just joined, my name is Jamie Wallace. I'm from Brainfuse. I'll be conducting the webinar today. So everybody should be able to hear me. I verified with a few people that the audio was working correctly earlier, so everybody should be able to hear me. You should also be able to see my computer screen here. So we're on the main page for the University of Hawaii Community Colleges. So this is what your students will see when they access the Brainfuse service. Basically today what I'm going to do is go through all the options here and show you how everything works, and you can feel free to ask as many questions as you have. A little bit of background before we get started. Brainfuse began as an in-person tutoring company here in New York City where we're located, but we quickly branched out into online tutoring, and we do that almost exclusively now. We've added a lot of different services over the years, and we'll look at today all the options that your students will have access to. So the specific options that you've subscribed to and that your students will be able to access when they access the Brainfuse service. So the link will be placed. I don't believe it's live yet. We're still working out certain things with the University of Hawaii with our contacts there. But once that's set up, the link should be placed within whatever learning management system you use. And that's how the students will access Brainfuse. So they'll click on the link and they'll get to this page that we're looking at right here. So we have a good number of people signed in today, so I'm going to leave everybody's microphones muted or phone muted if you've called in using a phone, because if I unmuted everybody, I think there'd be a little bit too much background noise to really hear. So everybody should just use that chat box that a number of you have used already. Use that chat box to type out any questions you have as we're going through the webinar. So you can type them out anytime, and I'll address the question as soon as I see it. If anyone does want to ask questions out loud, you can hold them until the end, and I can unmute microphones one at a time at the end, and you can ask whatever questions you have then. So it's up to you how you do it. I'll try to pause occasionally throughout the webinar as well to give you some time to type out longer questions. Okay, so on the main page here that we're looking at, we basically have three tabs here. Expert Help is sort of the default in the first one, and we have Study and Collaborate. So essentially within each of these tabs we have a number of buttons, and that's how you access the different parts of our service. So I'm going to start right here with the Expert Help tab and go through the options that we see here. So the first button is called Live Help. This is essentially our foundational service. When you think of online tutoring, you think of connecting with a live tutor using a whiteboard, essentially communicating with them, getting help online with whatever questions the student happens to have. So that's what the Live Help button is here, the first one that's listed. So this is how you'll connect with a live tutor. Just click on the button here. Then you just need to choose the subject that you're looking to connect with a tutor for. So from the first drop-down menu, you can choose one of these options. So I'll go through each one to show you the options that we have. So if you choose business, we have accounting, econ, and finance available. If you go back and choose computer and tech, we have Excel, PowerPoint, Windows, and Word. If you choose English, we just have reading and writing. If you choose math, we have all sort of the standard college level subjects that your students can get help with here. And then if you choose science, the last option, we have anatomy, bio, chem and organic chem, and physics. So you can choose any of these subjects here, click on the Get Live Help button, and that will connect you with one of our live tutors in the online classroom. You can also click right here if you'd like to get a Spanish-speaking tutor. So I'm going to go through all of the services that we offer first, and then the last thing that we'll do is look at a live session and see how that works. So we'll see the online classroom and the live session at the end today. If I go back to the home page, that was the Live Help button. The next option here is Skill Surfer. So essentially Skill Surfer allows students to access a number of our lessons and look at them on their own. So you're not connecting with a tutor here. When you click on Skill Surfer, you just get access to this page here, and you can click on the available topics to look through the lessons that we have created in those topics. So these are the only ones we have available now. We'll be adding more. But for example, if I click on college algebra, we have all these different subtopics within college algebra. They're listed over here. So for example, numbers and operations, it's listed right here. So you can click on this to see our full list of lessons within numbers and operations. We have any lesson with this orange, reddish icon next to it is essentially a text lesson, like in a textbook. And these green options here, the green icon, these are video lessons that we've created. So your students can access all these options here and look through any of these lessons if they're looking to get help in any of the topics available here. So that's Skill Surfer. Again, if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to type them out at any point. And essentially, I'll try to stop after I finish with each of these 3 tabs. So after we go through these options, I'll stop and give you some additional time to type out questions. But if you do want to type one as we're going, you can feel free to do that as well. The next option here is the Writing Lab. So this allows students to send in pieces of writing they're working on to have them reviewed by one of our writing tutors. So you just click on the Writing Lab button here to send in a document. You just follow the 2 steps here. So click on Browse to attach the file that you'd like to send in. Pretty much any standard document type can be sent to us, and there is a file size limit, but it's large, so you can send in very large papers with images, anything like that can be sent in to us here. Then you have a comments box where you can type out anything you'd like to say to the tutor. So you could type out what the assignment was. Maybe you only need help with the conclusion. You could let the tutor know that. And then when you're ready, you click on the Submit button. So that sends the document in to us. We will send back our response within 1 business day at the most. So from when the student sends in their paper, we'll respond at most within 1 business day. But a lot of the time we'll respond much more quickly than that. So as soon as a student sends in a paper, it'll be available to one of our tutors to edit. And they might send it back an hour or 2 later. What we focus on, actually before I get to that, so we have the Message Center. This is where you're directed to get our response. The Message Center is right here at the top of the page. So right here is the document we just submitted. When the tutor sends back their response, it'll show up right here as well. So the student just signs back into their account, clicks on the Message Center to retrieve that document. So it's sent back here through their Brainfuse account, not through email or anything like that. This right here is a sample of what we send back. So at the top of the page, we'll have our rubric form. So we have a few sections we've created here where the tutor will have to write out some comments about that part of the student's paper. Then if you scroll further down, the rubric ends here, and you find the actual student's paper. And the tutor will also include comments here embedded within the paper itself. So we're not going to make changes for the student. We're more giving them feedback and suggestions on how they can improve and write a better paper. So the student will get this revision back from us, and then they'll have to go back on their own to actually make the changes. So take our suggestions into consideration, rewrite parts of the paper, fix any grammar errors that were pointed out, anything like that. So all the changes will actually have to be made by the student. So that was the Writing Lab. So any type of writing can be sent in there to us. Next we have the 24/7 Center. So this option works exactly the same way as the Writing Lab, except that the 24/7 Center is for any questions a student wants to send in. So you can, of course, connect with a live tutor and ask questions there. This is just another option, and it's available 24 hours a day. So you can send in a question here anytime. Just click on this button, put in the topic, and then the subject. Type out your question here in the box. You can also attach a file if you have one. That's optional. And then click on the Submit button. So again, that sends the question out to our tutors. One of them might get back to you within an hour or 2, but at most we'll respond within 1 business day. So the subjects available here are the same as the ones we saw in the live session. So the same options you had there. The question as well as our response, again, is saved in the Message Center, just like for the Writing Lab. So the 24/7 Center works the same way as the Writing Lab. It's a question saying, can we access more samples of writing tutors' comments on student papers? We're concerned about over-editing by tutors. We get that concern from most clients. So we're very strict. We do a lot of reviewing. Every day we have someone essentially full-time reviewing the papers that are sent back to students. So tutors who are over-editing are either retrained or we stop working with them. So our tutors just provide comments on ways that the student can improve the paper. So we're not making changes for the student or anything like that. And if you happen to come across any examples of that from your students, you can contact us anytime. We'd be happy to address those. But it's something we take seriously, and we do our best to not let it happen. As far as more samples, I have a couple others, but they're essentially just like that one. There's no way for students to access samples of our writing. Like on the website, we don't put samples. But if you wanted to see more today, I have a couple others saved that I could show you quickly. Someone says, can you click on the drop-down area so we can see the subject and areas? So these are exactly the same as the ones we saw before in the live tutoring option. So we have business, computer tech, English, math, and science, and then within each one there are some subtopics as well. But these are exactly the same as the ones we saw just a few minutes ago. Does anyone have any other questions right now? There's a question saying, what is the difference between live help and 24/7? So the live help is when you're connecting with an actual live tutor in the online classroom. So again, we'll look at that at the end today. I'll show you exactly what a live help session looks like. You're connecting in our online classroom with a live tutor right at that time. 24/7 Center is just essentially you're sending in a question. It's like sending an email to us. You're typing out a question, sending it in to us. One of our tutors will take it, work on it, and send it back to you. So that will happen within one business day from when you send in that question. Our tutors are never going to give out answers to questions sent in through the 24/7 Center, just like we never do editing to documents sent in the Writing Lab. So if a student sends in a math question through the 24/7 Center, most of the time the tutor will work through a similar problem to show how that type of question is done. For other types of questions, we'll send a resource a student can use. We'll give them some hints, get them started on a problem, something like that, but we're never going to give out answers. So that's the difference between Live Help and 24/7 Center. And then there's another question, saying I just signed in, so I didn't see before. So I think that's referring to the subjects. So if we go back into Live Help or into the 24/7 Center, you'll have the same subject options. So you'll have business. Within business, there's accounting, econ, and finance. Within computer and tech, we have Excel, PowerPoint, Windows, and Word. Within English, we just have reading and writing. Within math, we just have standard math subjects, so all the ones listed here: trig, stats, pre-calc, pre-algebra, geometry, college algebra, and calculus. And then the last option is science, and there we have anatomy, biology, chemistry and organic chemistry, and physics. And then the last option within the Expert Help tab here, I'll just quickly go over, is the Language Lab. So this is essentially here for anyone who is learning Spanish. So you'll see Spanish is the only language we currently offer in the drop-down menu, the only one we have a demand for. So you can click on Spanish, click on Connect with Tutor, and that'll connect you with a live tutor who can help you with learning Spanish. We also saw in the Live Help option that you have this checkbox here. So you can click on this to connect with a Spanish tutor. So this is usually used by native Spanish speakers. So someone who wants to, for example, choose math, pre-calculus, and then get a tutor who can help them with that subject in Spanish. So usually that's native Spanish speakers. And then for anyone who's just working on learning the language, they'll go into the Language Lab. So any other questions on the Expert Help tab here, the first tab? in these 5 options, questions about pretty much anything we've gone over so far up to this point. There's a question saying, how about ESL? We don't offer anything specifically for ESL. I see there's actually another question about that as well. At this time, we don't offer anything specifically for ESL, but we have tutors who are fluent in Spanish and English, so they could help with any types of specific questions that students had, about English grammar, English writing, anything like that. But we don't have tutors specifically for ESL. Any other questions right now? Okay, I don't see any questions yet. So I'll move on to the next tab here. Next to Expert Help, we have the Study tab. So we just have 2 options here. The first one is Flashbulb. So this is an online flashcard service that we have. So students can use this if they're working on memorizing any types of terms and definitions or vocabulary words. So they click on the Flashbulb option. And the Create Now option here on the left of this page is where the student will go to enter their own words and definitions. So this is what most students will use. We also have all these different topics available over here. So essentially you can click on these topics to access sets of flashcards that have already been created. Most of these are just created by students though, so they may not be accurate. Plus they probably won't cover the exact words that you're looking to work on. But you can click on any of these options here if you'd like to. So I'm going to click on the English vocabulary topic here just to show you what a set of cards looks like. So this page that is still loading here, this is just a list of flashcards, a list of sets of flashcards. So each one of these here is a set of flashcards. The ones that have this little stamp icon next to it have either been created by us or have been vetted for accuracy, and that's explained up here in the orange bar. But again, most sets of flashcards will not have that icon. They're just created by other students. So if I click on one of the topics here, this is what a set of the cards looks like. So you can click on each of the different icons down here to do something different with those flashcards. The first button here just shows me the flashcards. The ones I know, I can put into the correct pile. The ones I don't know, I can put down into the incorrect pile. You can then click on Retry if you'd like to retry the ones you didn't know. There's also a number of games you can play. So for example, the crossword puzzle option. The system here creates a crossword puzzle out of the words that you entered, and it uses the definitions over here as the clues. So it's a great way to help memorize the words. There's other games here as well. You'll see a few of them listed. You can take a quiz or a test when you're ready to test your knowledge of the cards. You can print the cards out if you do want to have hard copies of them. So there's a lot of options here that you don't have with hard copies of flashcards, and it's all just designed to make memorizing easier for students. If we go back into the Study tab here, back on the main website, that was the Flashbulb option. Right next to that, we have Compass Prep. So if you have any students who are preparing to take the Compass test, they can go here to get some help. So we have resources on the left, essentially links to outside websites you can use to help prepare for the Compass test. Here in the middle, you can take practice tests for the Compass that we've created. So just choose one of the sections of the test, click on the button here, and that will let you take a practice test. And then on the right, we have live tutors available. So you can choose one of the sections of the test, connect with a live tutor, and get help preparing for that section of the Compass test. A lot of students like to take one of the practice tests, and then they'll log in with one of our live tutors, and our tutors are actually able to access your specific test results. So they can go over a test you just took and look through the questions that you got wrong, help you go over those and how to answer them correctly, so they can see your test results if you ask them to. So that's a great way for students to practice. If we go back to the Study tab here, those were the two options that are available. Does anyone have any questions about Flashbulb or Compass Prep or anything else we've gone over up to this point? I'd be happy to answer questions about. Again, for anyone who joined late, you can also, we have a lot of people signed in, so I'm leaving everybody's microphone or phone on mute. So if you do want to save questions and ask them out loud at the end, that's fine. Just save up the questions, and then I can unmute people one at a time at the end, and you can ask questions or make comments out loud if you are connected to audio. There's a question saying, can students enter their word list? Yes, that's the first thing in Flashbulb that I showed you. If we click on it again, so most students will use the Create Now button right here. So that's where you enter your own cards. So that lets you work on memorizing the exact list of words that you're looking to memorize. So it's the most useful part of Flashbulb. There's another question saying, are flashcards students create automatically shared publicly, or do students have that as an option? There's, I believe, a little check mark that's automatically checked off. So if a student doesn't uncheck it, they'll be shared. If the student unchecks it, they won't be shared. And it's the same thing for another part of the service that we'll look at later, where you have the option to not share if you don't want to. Sorry, someone said please show that. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Tanya, could you expand on your question? Oh, how you create your own flashcards. So you just click on the Create Now button here. You have to have a username. So you enter that here if you used it before, and this will let you create, this will let you access sets of flashcards you've already created. If you have never used the service before, you just click here. You create a username and password, and then you just enter the word and the definition. So that's how you do it. If you need me to go through the whole process, I can do that, but it's simple and self-explanatory. The students will have no problem figuring it out. Any other questions for right now? And that is the most used part of Flashbulb. So most of these sets of flashcards that have been created, they're not of much use to students. It's really only the set of words they're particularly looking to work on. So most students just use the Create Now option. Okay, I don't see any other questions yet. So that was the Study tab here. I'll now move on to the Collaborate tab. So here again, we just have two options. The first one is Meet. So essentially Meet allows you to schedule an online meeting with whoever you'd like to invite to the session. So it uses our online classroom, just like when you connect with one of our live tutors, except that in a Meet session here, you're not connecting with our tutors. You're only connecting with the people you invite to the session. So it's usually used by students who want to host a study group, or even by a teacher or professor who wants to give extra help to students from outside of the classroom. So the nice thing about it is that everybody who's connecting in a Meet session here can be located in a different place. So you're just connecting online. So if I click on the Meet button here, to actually schedule a Meet session, you just enter the email addresses of everybody you'd like to invite, put in the date and time, put a description of the meeting in number 3, and then click on Send. So that will send an email to everybody whose email address you entered. They'll be able to click on the link in that email to access this Meet session. As far as what the online classroom looks like, again, it's pretty much the same as when you connect with one of our live tutors. And we'll look at that in just a few minutes. We'll see an actual live session. So that'll also show you what one of these Meet sessions looks like. In Meet, you can invite any number of people. So it's not just you and the tutor, like in a normal live session. You can have 5 classmates all connected in the session, going over a study guide to prepare for a test, or whatever it is. You can go over that in an online Meet session here. Once you have one of these scheduled, You have the My Calendar option here. So this is where that meeting will be saved and where you'll go to start that meeting when it's time for it to begin. If we go back into the Collaborate tab, that was the Meet option. Right next to Meet, we have Brainwave. Essentially, Brainwave allows you to create little videos. It gives you a smartboard and lets you type out or draw whatever you'd like to put on the smartboard, and then it records a video of what you're putting on the board there. So a good example of what you might use this for is to show how to solve a multi-step math problem. You can include any images or shapes, pictures that go along with it. You can show each step in the correct order, and then you have a little video showing how to solve that type of question. I'll click on the button here. So these are two brainwaves that I've created in this account. If I want to create a new one, click on the button up here. If I want to play one of these two, I can just click on the play button here. But you can also share these with other people. So you can create these just for your own benefit, or you can actually send them to fellow students if a student creates it, or again, even a teacher or professor could create these and send them to their students. So you send just by clicking on the envelope icon over here. You'll enter the email address you'd like to send it to, and that'll send a link to that person that they can click on to view that brainwave. They won't need to sign in to Brainfuse or anything. They'll just click on the link and they can watch that recording. If I want to create a new one, click on the button here. This window tells me a little bit more about Brainwave. Then I click on Begin Recording down at the bottom when I'm ready to start. This is what we call our notepad. It looks just like the online classroom, so you'll have these same buttons here available when you're connected in a live session. So I'll go over these in more detail when we do connect for that live session. But essentially here, I can use these buttons to put whatever I'd like on the board. And for example, I can show how to find the slope of a line. So I use the graph tool to put a graph on the board. I use the shapes tool to add a line to the graph. And then I can go through all the different steps to find the slope of that line, or whatever the problem is that I'm trying to solve. You can go through it here. This expands, so if you need more space, it'll expand down if you keep typing. When you're done, just click on the Stop Recording option, type out a name for the brainwave, and click on Save. So this is the option to share or not share. So it's automatically checked, but you can uncheck it if you'd like to not share that brainwave. So then you click on Save. That will save the brainwave right here within your account. So you can always click on My Brainwaves to get back to this page. And then that sharing option that I just mentioned. We also have the Brainwave Library tab here. So this is where you'll go to search for brainwaves that other people have created. So you type in a keyword, and you can do a search to see if there are brainwaves on that topic. So if you shared yours, it'll be searchable. If you did not, then it won't be searchable. So those were the two options here in Collaborate. We have a few options up here at the top of the page that we haven't looked at yet. So for one of these is My Cloud Pack. So this is essentially a storage device. When you open it for the first time, it'll just say My Cloud Pack here. So these are two folders that I added. You can add whatever folders you'd like, name them what you'd like, and add as many as you want here. And then you can upload documents into these folders. So in one capacity, it works just as a storage device, sort of a backup storage device. You can come back here anytime to access these documents. But the nice thing about Cloud Pack is that any documents you have saved here, when you're connected in a live session, you can access those files and upload them into our online classroom. So I'll show you that when we connect for the live session in a few minutes. We also have the My Tests option over here on the right. So any tests you take, the results will be saved right here. For your students, the only practice test option that they have is the Compass Prep. So the only test that will be saved in their My Tests option will be if they take one of these Compass practice tests. And then I believe the last option, the only one we haven't gone over, is past sessions, and we'll look at that once we connect for the live session. So does anyone have any questions about anything we've gone over so far before we connect for the live session? Okay, I don't see any questions at this point, so I'll go ahead and connect for the live session now. So if we go back to the main page here and click on the live help option, I just choose a topic. Say I choose English and writing, and then I click on the Get Live Help button to connect with a live tutor. Our online classroom will always look the same. Sorry, I did this earlier. I also had I try to set up these sessions so that I connect with myself, so I don't take away from an actual tutor who's online. For some reason, it wasn't working earlier today either. I'm just going to pause the screen briefly, try and figure out why this isn't working. If anyone has any questions in the meantime, you can go ahead and type those out. There's a question saying, is this flash-based? I believe, I'm not really a technical person. It works on the standard equipment that comes on most computers. I believe it's Java-based. I don't know if that's flash-based as well. But it doesn't require any special downloads. Okay, so yeah, the screen should be live again. So we're connected here with a tutor. This is a tutor who just happens to be online right now. So I'm just going to, down here in the chat box, I can type something out to the tutor. So I'm going to let them know that I don't need an actual session. Okay, so as you can see, the tutor and I are typing back and forth in the chat box down here at the bottom. So this is essentially an instant messaging feature that a lot of programs use today. So this is the main way that tutor and student will communicate back and forth. So the session starts with the tutor asking, how can I assist you today? So the tutor would see the topic that I chose, the general topic, whether it's writing or Algebra 2, but they wouldn't know anything other than that. See, there's a question saying, can this work with handhelds? We have an app for iPads and for iPhones as well, but the live session portion doesn't work on those devices. So you can access the other features we have available, but you can't connect for a live session on handhelds. So that was the instant messaging portion of the online classroom here. The other main part to the online classroom is the whiteboard space up here. This area can be used for a lot of different things. So if a student logs in looking for general help on a topic, let's say they need help learning how to multiply fractions, our tutor can load the lesson that we have on that subject. So we have lessons on most standard subjects. So the tutor can load the lesson onto the whiteboard here and then work through that with the student. Tutors also have a number of other resources if they happen to need any of those that they can load into the whiteboard here if that would help the student. But then most of the time this area is just used to go over a math problem, a chemistry problem, to look at a paragraph a student is working on writing. Anything like that can also be done on the whiteboard space here. So we have all these buttons we see along the left-hand side. These will let me put different things on the whiteboard. So, for example, I can click on the pencil here, which is freehand draw. That'll just let me draw whatever I'd like on the board. The eraser will let me erase. The ABC button, let me click anywhere on the board and then type. So our board here is interactive. So whatever I'm writing on the whiteboard here, it's showing up on the tutor's whiteboard and vice versa. So we're essentially working on the same whiteboard. The font button lets me change the font style and size. Color wheel lets me change the color of the next thing that I put on the whiteboard. This is a paste text or image option, so you can copy and paste pretty much anything that can be copy and pasted right onto our whiteboard. So for example, this paper that we were looking at before, if I want to take part part of this paper right here. I just copy it, Control C. Then I go back into the whiteboard here, just put the cursor wherever I'd like to. Sorry, click the wrong button. Wherever I'd like to paste it on the whiteboard, and then you click on this paste button, and I'll paste it right onto the whiteboard. So that's one way you can share information with the tutor. You have a couple other options as well. Some of these buttons up here that I'll show you in a few minutes. This tool is just a straight line tool, so you can use it to underline or to draw figures. Then we have the graph looking option right here, which actually gives you two options when you click on it. So you can take a number line, click and drag that onto the whiteboard, or you can choose the graph option and click and drag that onto the whiteboard. You can also double click on either of these icons here, and it will let you change the X and Y values. Then we have a basic shapes tool, so you can use this to put lines onto a graph, or to put some other basic shapes on the board. The arrow here just removes the most recent thing you put on the board, so you can click on that and essentially move backwards. The math button gives you a long list of math symbols if you need any. SCI does the same thing for science symbols. Then we have a superscript and a subscript button. And down at the very bottom you can clear the entire whiteboard. Up at the top here we have a few additional options. The print button will print out the whiteboard. So if there's something there that was particularly helpful, you went over a difficult problem, you can use the print option to print that out. However, you don't need to print something out if you'd like to have access to it later. We also have the past sessions option back here on the website. So essentially all of your live tutoring sessions are automatically recorded and then saved within your account right here. So it's essentially a little video recording of that tutoring session. You can log back in and rewatch that at any time. So they're all saved here. Back in the online classroom, we also have this envelope icon right here. So here you can type in either your own email address or somebody else's, and that will send to them a link that they can click on to view a recording of this session. So this button is usually used right at the end of the session before you log out. Once the session is pretty much over, click on this button, enter either your own email address or somebody else's who you want to send a copy of this session to, and then that will send them a link they can click on to view a recording of that session. Our description here is outdated. We need to update that. Essentially now it does what I just said, which is send a link you can click on to view the recording of this entire session. This button right here says send file. So this lets you upload a document directly to the tutor you're connected with. So you can send them any standard document type. So if you're working on a term paper or research paper, you can send that to the tutor here. You can send Excel files, anything like that can be sent back and forth with the tutor. And then we also have the last option, which is the Cloud Pack Explorer, one we saw briefly before. So that was the storage device. Right here is my Cloud Pack, where you could create those folders and then upload whatever documents you'd like into those folders. And when you have documents saved there, you can access all of those folders and all of those documents in your Cloud Pack right here and essentially upload them right onto the whiteboard. So you have a number of options as far as how you can share information with your tutor. One is through Cloud Pack, one is through sending a document to them through the Send File button, and then of course just writing on the whiteboard here or using the copy-paste tool to paste part of a paper onto the board here. You can use any of those options. I see there's a question here, kind of a long question, saying if a writing instructor wanted to encourage students to share the assignment descriptions and rubrics with their tutors, how can that be facilitated? Could instructors post the assignments and rubrics somehow so students can access them easily? Instructors can't post anything on our site that could be accessed by students. I assume that would have to be done through the learning management system, through Blackboard or whatever it is that your school uses. But students can send anything that they have access to, they can send to our tutors. So they can share assignment instructions, descriptions, rubrics. They can share any of that type of information with their tutor. So you can send the document to your tutor using this button right here. You can upload the instructions to them. Then you can upload your actual paper. You can upload multiple documents. So anything the student has access to, they can share with our tutors. So that's essentially how the live sessions work here. It's how the online classroom works. Does anyone have any questions about this here? There's a question saying, can instructors create class lists to work with a certain group of students? Sorry, I don't think I quite understand what the question means. So the instructors can't really share anything with groups of students through Brainfuse. I mean, unless they're doing it through with their email address. So an instructor could create a brainwave and send a brainwave to their students. They can, record a session and send it to one of their students. But there's no way for an instructor to really create a class list and then send lots of information through Brainfuse. There's another question saying, do the tutors limit the time of each session? No, we don't have a limit. If a student is just getting help on 40 of the exact same type of problems, after going over a few, the tutor might suggest to the student that they log off and work on their own now. But our tutors are never going to kick a student off, even if it's been hours. They can stay logged in. Okay, so that was the live session. That's also pretty much everything that I wanted to go over today. So those were all the options that we have here for your students. I'm happy to take any additional questions now that anybody has. You can feel free to type them out. If anyone does want to ask a question out loud, just go ahead and type me a quick message to let me know, and I'll unmute your microphone. And while everyone's typing out any questions you have, I just want to open up this quickly. So depending on the client, sometimes students use the service right away and there's a high usage from the very beginning, and sometimes it takes a while. So these are just some examples of how you can increase usage or get usage started. Essentially, they just all have to do with making students aware. Usually if students are aware that there's a free tutoring option available, it'll get pretty good usage. So we can send collateral that you can place, marketing collateral, flyers, things like that you can place in areas where students will see it. We recommend sending out notifications to students however you can, either through individual professors, through other types of notifications that are sent to students, putting it somewhere within your website, within the learning management system. Anything like that is great. If there's a social media presence, making an announcement over that is always a good idea. And there's a few other options here as well. They're pretty much all just different ways to get out the word about Brainfuse. And if you do want to conduct any additional webinars like this at any point, you can feel free to contact us anytime. We'd be happy to set those up, maybe in the fall. If there are more instructors present in the fall who might benefit from a training like this, we can set that up. There's a question saying, I noticed this session is being recorded. Can it be emailed to us for later reference? Yes, the session is recorded. We'll actually upload it to YouTube to create a link, and then we can send you access to that link. The file itself is usually too big to send over email, so sharing it through YouTube is usually the easiest way. Does anyone have any other questions I can answer? There's a question saying, do the writing tutors only deal with grammar, or do they work on content? No, we actually ask them to focus more on content than on grammar. So the goal of our tutors in providing their reviews is to give comments and suggestions to the student on how they can write a better paper. So comments about fixing the organization of the paper, adding more content where it's needed, staying on topic, developing your thesis further, things like that. So the student can then take the comments that our tutor makes and go back and improve their paper. Tutors will point out recurring grammar errors, typos, things like that, but they don't fix them for the student. They usually just point them out. If there's an error that occurs throughout the paper, the tutor will point it out once and then say, look out for whatever that error was throughout the rest of the paper. So our focus is actually more on the content than on the grammar. There's a question saying, do you provide training for students? We don't usually do live training for students, but we send a student guide booklet, and we also send the link to the webinar recording of the session today. So if you want to send that to students, you certainly can. That's up to you how you distribute that link. There's a question saying, when can we access Brainfuse to become familiar with it? The service hasn't launched yet. I know we're still working with our contacts at the University of Hawaii to figure out certain issues, so it's not officially launched yet, but it shouldn't be long. I don't have an exact date, but once it is, you can feel free to check it out on your own and have students use it as well. Does anyone have any other questions up to this point? If you do think of any later after we're done today, you can feel free to contact me anytime to ask. And like I said before, we can also set up additional webinars if there are people who weren't able to attend today. But I just want to see if there's any other questions from anyone before we end for today. I haven't seen any questions, any additional questions from anyone. Actually, there is one. Is there a way for instructors to see an activity log of their students? So we send regular usage reports that will detail the usage of the service. So yes, we will send something like that. For anyone who needs to log out, you can go ahead and do so. And I'll stay logged in for another few minutes to see if anyone does have additional questions. You can go ahead and type them out. But for anyone who does need to go, thanks a lot for attending. I hope it was helpful. But again, if anyone has additional questions, you can feel free to still type them out. I'll stay logged in for another couple minutes. There's a question saying the activity logs are sent to the instructors or to the school administrator. They're sent to whoever's email address you give us to. Usually it's a school administrator. We're not really sending logs of individual student activity. It's sort of an overview of the usage of the service. So what subject students are using, how many sessions there were, how many writing lab submissions there were, things like that. There's a question saying, I'd like to be able to require students to participate in tutoring sessions, but would want evidence that they attended. Any way possible to document that they used the service. So after they log in for a session, you could just have the student click on their past sessions option right here. And within past sessions, you can click on this icon. It says convert to a brainwave. So you can turn your live tutoring sessions into Brainwave files, and then with Brainwave, if you go into Brainwave, you can send these to somebody. So you click on the envelope icon. So you can actually have the student send you a recording of the tutoring session here. If you wanted essentially a report, that's something I would have to check with our tech department. There might be some way we could send you sort of a list of who used the service. But again, that kind of thing I'm not sure about. It would depend exactly on what information is being sent to us when a student connects. So we don't always get the student's name. Sometimes we're just sent an ID number. So it depends on how much information is transferred when the student connects to Brainfuse from the learning management system. So that would be, it's something that might be possible, but it would really have to be discussed with our tech department. It's not something we do right now. We do have a lot of instructors who require students to send in papers to us through the writing lab. And of course, when they do that, the student will get back an actual paper from us with the writing lab rubric. So then they could just send that to you as a professor, and that would be one way to track it. So there's a follow-up question saying, in the past I've required students to attend a tutoring session and have the tutor sign a form. I assume those must have been in-person tutoring sessions, so we obviously wouldn't be able to have anyone sign a form. But I mean, you could have the student print out the whiteboard from the online classroom. So I showed you that option as well. So you could just print out what they did on the whiteboard. That would be another way for the student to show that they actually had a live session. In the live session directly, actually, also, I already closed the live session because I didn't want to take up that tutor's time. But if you remember, in the live session, there was a little envelope icon at the top of the screen that lets you enter an email address and send a link to that tutoring session. So you could have your students click on that, and they could enter your email address, and that would send a recording of the session directly to you. So that would actually be easier than using the past sessions option that we just mentioned here.